In this tutorial, I'm going to cover an NGUI extension called HUD Text. NGUI HUDText allows you to see numbers or text pop up over a character's head and then float away. Kind of like scrolling combat text in World of Warcraft if you've played that. Now, when you first import NGUI HUDText, this is what you're going to see. I currently have the second example open. But the basic layout is you have HUD text, and inside of HUD text you have examples and GUI scripts and other assets. And GUI contains a distribution version of NGUI. And if you already have a version of NGUI, like a full version or even a free version, then you don't have to import it. The examples folder contains all the scripts, scenes, and other assets used by this package. And you don't have to import it if you have already taken the time to get yourself familiar with it. Standard assets just contains a couple of textures, nothing important. The important part of this package is actually in the scripts folder, and it's just two scripts. HUD text itself is all you need to display and use this extension. UI follow target is actually used to move the text so it's over the head of the character, which is drawn by a different camera. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover both of these scripts. Now this package actually comes with two examples, and you can have a look at them if you want. But I assume you already have. Instead, I'm going to go over the steps necessary to actually use HUD text in a new example. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is File, New Scene. And this makes sure that NGUI is not actually open, which allows you to do the next thing. Go ahead and delete the NGUI folder. Now you're going to get 3 errors here, but that's okay. Next thing we're going to do is actually import NGUI from an updated package. And I happen to have it here. Of course, it's up to you which version you want to use. I have the full version of NGUI here, distribution, which is what this package came with, and the free version. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to go with the free version. Double click it, import it as is, and here it is. It is now imported. Now if you actually open one of the example scenes and play it, you can see that it actually works fine. I'm gonna go and switch to NGUI layout here. It's just a saved layout for me, in case you're wondering. And yeah, so here I have a panel tool, camera, and all the other tools that actually come with NGUI. Since I'm able to see them here, it means that upgrade was actually successful. But of course, an easier way to test is to switch to the scene view, go to the UI, and try to modify it. I'm able to select it, I'm able to modify it, which means that the free version of NGUI is working fine. But let's go ahead and start from scratch. File, New Scene. Now there's nothing in it. I'm gonna go ahead and add a box. Now there's a box. Now what I want is to have numbers show over this box. Of course, before we actually use any UI components, we need to create a UI. Now I'm going to specify a UI layer for this UI and click the Create button. Here we are. Just to make sure it works, I'm going to create a label. Using Rima 20 as a font, I will add a label here and say Hello World. And I'm going to move it up a bit, just so it's not blocking anything. Now I'm going to create a child object underneath the panel using Alt-Shift-N if you're familiar with NGUI. Now I'm going to add a HUD text script to this child and rename it to HUD text. Now the last step is obviously not necessary. I'm just doing it for clarity. HUD Text is going to expect a font to use. So specify a font, and an effect is up to you. Say I want to have a shadow effect. Now at this point, HUD Text is actually usable. We just need to actually use it. So I'm just going to go ahead and write a new script, calling it test. Let's see what happens. I'm going to drag this test script onto the HUD Text object and run it. Hey, look at that. It's actually working pretty well. So all it's doing is using the delta time and just constantly adding to HUD Text. End result is HUD Text is adding up those values inside, so you don't see a spam of different numbers. Instead, this allows you to actually see the damage per second kind of display. Now, of course, it would be more useful if this particular HUD Text object was following the cube, wouldn't it? So let's go ahead and do that. Attach a UI follow target script to HUD Text and specify what to follow. In this case, it's going to be a cube. Now let's see what happens. Hey, look at that. Of course, if I move the cube, the HUD Text script stays with it. Here's the side-by-side view. Move the cube, HUD Text stays with it. Now, of course, in this case, the text is appearing in the middle of the cube. In your case, you probably want to have it appear above the head of your character, right? So imagine that this cube was your character. What I'm going to do is actually create a game object above it, calling it target or something like that. I'm going to parent it to the cube, and I'm going to reset its position and move it up a little bit. Now it's just above the cube. And next thing I'm going to do is change this target instead of cube to be actual target. Now if I play, the numbers are going to be appearing above the cube. Other than that, it's going to remain the same. Now, of course, you're probably not going to want to put any scripts onto the HUD Text itself. Like in this case, I have a test script that actually uses HUD Text, but it's attached to the same object as the HUD Text. You're probably not going to want that. What you're going to want to have instead is have your cube, in this case it's technically a game unit, and this game unit will actually have a script on it that references HUD Text. So let's go ahead and modify the text script a bit. Get rid of this and add a public reference to HUD Text. And now it's going to be like this. Now my test script is going to go onto the game unit and it's going to reference the HUD Text for that unit. Now functionality is going to be exactly the same. However, there's more you can do with it now. For example, say I wanted to add an onClick function, and whenever I click on a game unit, I want to say something. And I'm gonna want to have it be in green, and I'm also gonna make it stay there for 2 seconds. Notice how here it's 0, but here it's 2. That's actually how long it's gonna stay on the screen before it starts fading. So let's see what happens. I play and then I click. Oh, what's going on? Nothing's happening. That would be because if you look at the camera tool, you can see that EV here is not checked. It means that there's no events on the camera. And if you actually select the main camera itself, you'll see that there's no UI camera attached. That means it's not going to receive events. So I'm going to add a UI camera script to it and play it again. Hey, it works. Now, my suggestion to you is actually save this HUD text object as a prefab, or preferably as a part of your unit's HUD. So for example, if you were displaying the health bar above the unit's head, you can also put a HUD text object right next to it and save it all as a prefab. And then when you actually instantiate your unit in the game, you can instantiate the HUD text or UI's HUD component along with it. But I will leave that up to you. I hope you found this tutorial to be informative. Thanks for watching.